Gynecologists, what is the nastiest thing you have experienced while working? My wife's an obgyn. The worst case she related to me was a female inmate that had such a bad case of genital warts that it was impossible to discern any specific anatomical structures. It was just a giant mass of warts and infected discharge. She was also 10 weeks pregnant and still sexually active. Who would do that? Who would touch that? My mom's a labor and delivery nurse, so she sees quite a lot of cooch and swap stories with gynes all the time. I think my favorite story is the time she fished Easter grass, that plastic stringy shit they stuff in Easter baskets, out of the vagina. She didn't ask and the patient didn't explain. To be fair, that plastic Easter grass always ends up everywhere. Best Easter egg hiding spot ever. My stepdad is a retired obgyn with 45 years experience. He told me the worst case he ever dealt with was a patient he performed a hysterectomy on just after he finished residency and put the paperwork down he needed for board certification. The examiners noticed that a few days after the surgery, the patient needed 7 units of blood. The examiner was obviously concerned. So my stepdad explained to him that the woman's husband raped her days after a major surgery and she almost died. He still says that's the grossest situation he's ever been a part of. Edit. My stepdad saved her life and passed his boards. What happened to the husband who raped her? Was he reported? Whenever I hear about women not waiting 6 weeks after delivery to have sex, I don't think they were raped, but I think they were coerced. My ex whined incessantly about not having sex for 6 weeks. I still want to punch his stupid face for it. A passed out prostitute was brought to our IRMs. We needed to put a catheter in her. When we opened her legs, we saw a flash of green in her vagina. Turned out to be a bankroll of mostly 1s, 5s, 10s and a few 20s. I stopped carrying a lot of cash now. Think about this the next time you give your kids lunch money for school. You truly never know where it has been. And your new Reddit band name is Vaginal Money. Congratulations. I always get nervous when my annual adipose check rolls around, thinking the gyno will think mine doesn't measure up. Well, my appointment is coming up Thursday and this thread has made those feelings go away. Thanks op. This thread has made me feel very happy about the state of my vagina. Right, I don't even know how some of these women get a tampon and a dick up there at the same time. Yep, I thought brown period was gross till I read this thread. Believe it or not, I'm not actually a gynecologist. Gyn nurse here. I'd have to say rectovaginal fistulas rank high up on the gross list. For those who don't know, it's an abnormal connection tunnel between the rectum and the vagina. Stool constantly oozes from the vagina as there is no sphincter control. You poop from your vagina. That's the most amazing sentence I've read all year. No lie, you poop from your vagina. I have to work tonight, and this sentence is going to get me through my shift. I'll remember it and laugh hysterically throughout the night. It'll be great. Not a gynecologist, but I've wanted to share this. 3 or 4 years ago, my buddy in college was finger banging a girl and literally pulled a used condom out of her vagina. The worst part is the chick didn't even notice, so he just stuffed it back in there and said he had to leave. That man is a true Boy Scout. Leave the wilderness as you found it. Well, that's just fucking rude to stuff it back in there, lol. Not a gynecologist, but I did assist a veterinarian in spaying a pit bull with pyometra. Her uterus was bulging with infection. It was a close call for the dog because just as he had removed it, it ruptured in his grip and spilled on the floor. It was yellow, smelly, and super disgusting. He was putting it in a tray at the time, so none of it got on the dog and she made a full recovery, but to think that if the owners had waited any longer, she would have gone septic and died. When I was a nurse, I assisted in many ugly pelvic exams. The missed pregnancies are fairly horrific to watch. We had these little buckets like you'd get a gallon of ice cream in to catch all of the contents of one of those. As for stinkiest, more than a couple of times I had patients who have forgotten that they have a tampon in for quite a long time. Also, a rectal vaginal fistula has a smell you won't soon forget. Not a gynecologist, but I work with them regularly. I work trauma in the OR, so I see sorts messed up stuff. The one thing that sticks out in my mind as the single most disgusting vaginal case ever is when we had a psych patient use a tube sock as a tampon. To make it worse, she had completely forgot about it and left it in there for over a month. Not a single person in the OR could keep from gagging, including the gyn doctor. I'm really going to regret reading this thread. Update: I regretted it severely. Gyn I worked with once told me about this case he had working at a free clinic. A woman comes in for ST testing, and something smells really off. She looked like she had done her share of crack. But this was something else. He looks at her vagina, does some palpating. The mummified fetus pops out. The protocol was to shove it back in and take her to the hospital. I lost a pair of shoes, really just the left, to a rockin' case of trick in medical school on my 3rd or 4th pelvic exam. Let's take a look. Blop. On a related note, I did not go into obgyn. What blopped? Why'd you put your feet in there? Not gyn. Had a woman come to the ED to check out her odor. Seemed that 2 weeks before she had been at the club and put $200 in the other purse. She was so drunk that she forgot about it, pulled out a brown, incredibly smelly lump that was the remnant of her cash. Much gagging followed. Hey bartenders, want to know where your patrons are keeping their cash? Heard this story secondhand from a bunch of doctors telling gross stories. So this woman comes into the ER complaining about pain in her vagina. So the doctor reaches in and pulls out an empty Doritos bag. Apparently she was a prostitute, and the guy didn't have a condom on him, so he wrapped a used Doritos bag around his dick and dived in.